Okay, we have on Mario Brainovic of Analemma Water, and this is a structured water company. And I had heard your podcast originally. Someone I had posted we did an episode with Max Vreco of Flashka, and had him on. It was a great episode. And when I posted that episode, someone had sent me you with who was it, Brooker? What was the podcast? Who was it I sent you with?
In Greenfield.
With Ben Greenfield. And I listened to that and I have a ton of notes for you. It was, uh, you're super sharp, very well spoken. So like to be able to ask you some questions about this, like you seem to have a lot of answers in regards to the structured water field where I've I don't know. I've had a ton of questions. Have you heard of our podcast yet before? Have you listened to any of our episodes or see how we do things?
No, no, not
Okay.
really. No, I apologize, guys. I'm super busy. I did a lot of those, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of, my first part of my day is just handling regular kind of work, and because we really want to bring this to the world in the most powerful way, and we're doing ton of studies, so
Mhm.
that also is kind of very work consuming. And in the afternoon, I'm doing podcasts. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is kind of my whole day. I don't have a lot of time, but through the weekends I have a little bit, but I'm really, really, really dedicated and focused to this.
Cool. So how we do things, it's very laid back, and we just keep asking questions, nice and easy going conversation back and forth. It's
I
nothing
love
too
that.
intense. Yeah.
This is a huge topic, so I always like to go wherever the host wants to go because we can talk about this for hours and hours.
It sounds
Just so
good
you
with me.
know, just so you know, this is our project is 16 years in the making, 50 plus scientists over three continents
Hmm.
to get us where we are now. So we did really a lot of studies to prove that something biologically remarkable happens when you expose any biological system to this water.
Hmm. And so one of the kickers that a lot of structured water companies have is, proving or suggesting that it's now changed. Like, how can you do that? And you guys seem to have done that by identifying the light photons that are emitted from the plants that are taking the water in. How is that accurate?
Well, we picked up a whole lab from famous German scientist Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, and he actually developed this biophoton uh, technology. So biophotons are these tiny particles of light which every biological system exudes, and you need very, very sophisticated technology that can actually capture every single biophoton. The more biophotons biological system exudes, more vitality it has. So this was our early work. We proved, through near infrared ultraviolet visual spectroscopy that something changed, but we didn't want to just stay in like, okay, the water changed. What does that mean for us or for any living thing? That's why we started testing on biological systems. And our early work proved we actually had a big greenhouse in the Netherlands where we did a lot of tests on the plants, and we kind of tested, okay, you water the plant with regular water and you water the plant with Analemma water, with Coherent Water, and you see what's the difference. And the plants that were watered with Analemma water, they exude anywhere between 60 and 200% more light, which is very, very, very measurable. And it's really kind of really a cool thing to observe when you see a plant start to radiate more light. It's kind of cool.
Hmm.
So could we just define, because if I understand correct, Mario,
Mhm.
Analemma water is not the same as what other people are saying as structured water. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Well, we realized in our research that there are so many hidden worlds in it. People like to call it, oh, it's water. No, water can exist in so many states. I mean, Dr. Gerald Pollack is like a dear friend of ours. He actually came to easy water, exclusion zone water, and he came to his form of structure in a completely different way. And we realized that our effects are different. So water can exist in many states. Well, we realize that's why we're not even calling it structured, we're calling it coherent, because there are these coherent fields that start to appear in water. Water enters in unison, so to speak. So for people that don't understand this, just to take a step back, we realized in our research that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So it's still H2O, but H2O molecules, they move randomly. They're crashing each other constantly, and all of this is happening on an atomic level, so nobody's really aware. But this is not what we believe a natural state of water. When colloquially speaking, H2O molecules join hands and they start to form this liquid crystalline state where the water moves in harmony with itself. There, its true power is being unleashed. I always like to tell people, for instance, if you take a light bulb of 5 watts, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, so it's the same power, but a coherent, focused form of light, you can drill a hole through your table. So this is where the true power of a light, or in this case, water, is being unleashed.
So one of the things I love doing, I love testing stuff out and
Cool.
to see like what works, what doesn't work. So I own a gym. Brooker trains. I train a ton of professional athletes. He trains a bunch of Olympians and professional athletes, and we from all over the world. And the yeah, everything we do is measured. Everything we do is measured. Absolutely everything. And when I was looking at certain, for instance, with EMF, right? You wanted to see, you can test EMF. You can buy an EMF, whatever it is, device where it could pick up how much it is. So one of my buddies had bought one of those EMF patches that you put on your phone. It's supposed to reduce EMF. I said, dude, it's this big. So I was like, all right, let me just buy the wand and we'll check it out. And like, no, you're still emitting EMF. Like this little strip thing doesn't work. Like it doesn't make sense to me. So we're like, okay, that's not doing that. With our water, I can buy something that measures parts per million, right? I can tangibly see something going on. What can I get? Right? You said the biophoton device it's super technological. What can I get to actually measure something for myself to say, hey, I waved the wand in this now for 30 seconds or so. Water's boom, it's coherent now. Is there any way we can measure this?
There is a way. There is actually a super cool way. So I'm going to tell you 2 studies. These are the early studies that we did where we actually proved that really something remarkable happens and very fast. So since this water is what we call an electromagnetic phenomenon, we can also explain that. But we were like looking at it like, what's the most electromagnetic part of human biology that you can very accurately and very easily measure? It's our brainwaves. It's very measurable,
Yes.
so if there is a change there, you have to see it. And what we did was a double-blind study with 2 genetically identical twins. So it was a gold standard study. You have this genetically identical individuals. So what should work on one should work on the other one. And so there shouldn't be any kind of discrepancies there. So what we did, we took 2 genetically identical twins, we put QEEG equipment on their heads, we monitored their brainwave, we gave Analemma water to one, and we gave regular water to the other one. The doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and the twins didn't know which one was which. They just took a couple of sips of water. So the twin that took a couple of sips of regular water, like you would expect, we didn't see nothing. There was a 0 change in brainwave patterns. So everything stayed the same. But almost as soon as the twin that took a couple of sips of Analemma water, we were actually surprised with how fast it happened. There was an almost instant better connection between the left and right hemisphere of the brain, an almost instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves. Brain entered into delta coherence. There is this happening, it's called delta coherence, which usually happens when people are either in meditation or in psychedelics. So it was like, whoa, and it was really fast. 3 weeks later, we repeated the experiment and we gave Analemma water to the other twin. And since these 2 people are genetically identical, we saw exactly the same phenomenon happening while now on the other twin, while the first twin that took regular water, we again saw nothing. So this was first like powerful and irrefutable evidence that something really profound happens when you drink this water, and it's
Mhm.
almost instant. I know, of course, it requires QEEG equipment, and it's
Yeah.
not like something that you can do at home, but it's very, very, very doable. Anybody can test this. And you mentioned EMFs. We realize that EMFs, for instance, cell phones, they have detrimental effect on our brainwaves. We're,
Mhm.
I believe, the first researchers that actually realize this because nobody went there. Usually they go to like it increased the heat in your head or whatever, but we tested brainwaves and it's very measurable and it happens every single time. And what we did, we actually, the people were in the study, participants were talking on their cell phones for 3 minutes. We monitored their brainwaves all the time. We gave regular water to some and Analemma water to the other ones. And this detrimental effect on the brainwaves with people that took regular water persisted for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour even. But almost as soon as people who drank Analemma water, again, almost instant better connection with the left and right hemisphere of the brain and harmonizing effect on the brainwaves. So we were the first ones to prove that by drinking this water, you're actually bringing harmony to the brainwaves, which were disturbed by EMF.
How long do the effects seem to last?
We didn't actually test that. So it was a short-term study, meaning that we did it in a moment, meaning like, let's say 15, it was 1 hour because we kind of saw that the persistence lasted about 45 minutes to an hour. But after that, we didn't do tests. It was
Mhm.
just, this is what we did.
What
And
if you had to make a best guess? What would you say?
not sure, but what I can say, for instance, this is also something that we proved. We did the same research on plants. What we did is we took a plant and we took regular water and we radiated the water with 5G, and then we actually watered the plant with it, and the plant died.
Hmm.
It died very soon after. But what we did is then we radiated the water with 5G, we used an Analemma on it, we watered the plant, and the plant thrived.
How long did it take for the plant to die?
I would lie. I really would have to look at the research. So whatever I would say now, but of course, it happened in a short period of time, but whether that happened in 24 hours or 3 days, I'm not sure.
Okay. You guys did something with HRV as well, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah, yeah.
tell me about that.
Yeah. So since again, we now have to kind of at least create a context for people.
Cool, cool, cool.
What a lot of people aren't aware, we're 70% water in mass. But when you look at it from the molecular point of view, 99% of all of our molecules are water. We're basically very clever H2O when you look at it. It
Mhm.
really is crazy when you look at it from that perspective. So when we realize that water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy frequency and vibration, and it will always pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. We kind of had this idea, or not idea, but we wanted to test what would happen if people will just take a bath in Analemma water. If they would just lay down in the Analemma water for 20 to 30 minutes. Since we are water, as I mentioned, 99% of our molecules are water. And if you put your body or water in high vibratory state, what would happen? So we connected to Dr. Greg Lane and my dear friend David Perez in San Diego, since they have various equipment to measure a certain vitals before and after, and they have already several baths ready for people to come in and come out. We kind of decided to do a 100 people study. What we measured is cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and most importantly, heart rate variability. And in every single person in the study, after 20 to 30 minutes just taking a bath, nothing more, every single person experienced an improvement in cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, and the minimum improvement in heart rate variability that we saw in this study was 30%. That's minimum. The lowest score was 30%. And I'm not even going to go about the highest because people wouldn't believe. So I'm not even going to go there.
So, and then you had people, was this like a double blind as well?
No, this wasn't double blind. No,
Okay.
this wasn't double blind. This was a pilot study. Now we're going to go and do not only that, we're actually going to do athletic performance because we proved that ATP levels through double blind placebo-controlled study, we proved ATP levels go up, NAD levels go up, microbiome, everything, but we can touch upon that a bit later.
Yeah. So I saw that you use the I looked up how they're testing. So what was the measurement for ATPs? I saw the difference was 7 to 26, but it didn't say what the actual number was. I read through a bunch of the studies. I'd love to go through all of them with you.
Yeah, so
Talk to me about the ATP study, which was
cool.
really cool. They used technology, Brooker. They used technology from like fireflies to check out ATP.
Yeah, it's luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due
Hmm.
to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can very accurately measure ATP levels because we really wanted to be sure that we're doing this right.
Hmm.
We organized, as I mentioned, double-blind placebo-controlled study where we took quote-unquote snapshot of ATP levels in participants of the study. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So didn't change their exercise regime, didn't change their diets. They didn't change, like, actually, they didn't take any supplements. So everything else stayed the same. The only thing that changed was the water. And after 2 months, we did another test to see whether something changed. And what we saw was 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. And when you calculate that placebo, that's almost 1/3. And you're familiar being athletes, what ATP does in the body. I mean, like it's primary energy currency of the cell. It's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes inside of our body. So we're not talking about just muscle contraction. We're talking about biochemical reactions. What a lot of people aren't aware that the biggest spender of ATP is actually our brain. 25% of all of our energy goes to powering our brain.
Hmm.
For one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion ATP molecules, and there are billions of neurons. So just by sitting there, your brain is really spending a lot of energy. And of course, people with high ATP levels, they have much higher cognitive performance.
What do you think is the mechanism for why this happens with Analemma water? Like, what do you think's happening inside the body when it receives this?
So now we're actually entering into kind of hypothesis area because, as I mentioned, this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon. Since 99% of all of our molecules are water, there is, and we are, I would say that we are a liquid crystal because these molecules are actually structured in a particular way. And early radios were all crystal based. So you're either tuned to a particular frequency and you're resonating with it,
Hmm.
or you're cut off. And with this, you're actually priming yourself to receive the optimum frequency or information from your larger environment. I'm actually going to throw a study at you, which is super, like it blew our minds early on. So um, we actually studied these seeds, which is tiny, very, very, very simple form of life, like nothing, you would say. And we watered some with regular water and some with Analemma water, and we monitored biophoton emissions to see whether something would change. The seeds that were watered with regular water, we didn't see really anything special. But almost as soon as we started to water seeds with Analemma water, we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It's like the seed suddenly started to breathe in and out light, but in a very long fashion. At first, we didn't realize what it was. Why is this happening? What are the implications? And we connected to other scientists because we wanted to figure out. And then we realized that it started to follow the tides.
Crazy.
Yeah. So Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to circadian rhythm of nature. It connected it electromagnetically to its larger relevant electromagnetic environment.
How did you figure that out? Like what made you think, "Oh, let me look at the tides going in, tides going out."
We
Like what?
didn't. That's what I'm saying. We connected to other scientists, and then somebody kind of, oh, it, it made a connection, and then we saw it's dead on.
Hmm.
So it
So,
was very, very accurate.
So it's lunar.
Yes.
And it's interesting you say that because that's how you some people charge structured water with crystals in the moonlight in certain moon phases.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is what I mentioned is, um,
This is coherent water, yes. Yeah, so
yes.
I
And,
didn't
and
want to
not only
misspeak on
that,
that.
certain structures, it's like, as I mentioned, old radios were crystal based. You crank a crystal and you're receiving a different frequency. You're receiving different channel. You're literally listening to a different radio station.
Hmm.
So with this, it's the optimum information for your body, just like this seed study. You're not only connecting yourself within yourself, you're connecting yourself electromagnetically to planet Earth.
Hmm.
To Earth is a living organism. And I would even say much further. We're
Hmm.
talking about large electromagnetic environment, and you are starting to flow with it.
Hmm.
So you're moving with the Earth. You're not separate from it. You're not separate from other people. You're not separate from yourself. You're literally become connected.
Hmm.
And we believe that this is the number one benefit of this water. We're proving through all of these studies that we're doing, if you drink this water, your biology is going to work better. Everything is, you're going to be healthier and everything. But we believe that this effect is something truly extraordinary because it really connects you to what's relevant, to the relevant information of your larger environment.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's that's one of the things where grounding became so important because I mean, we wear rubber shoes, we drive in cars that have rubber tires, like, we couldn't be less connected to the earth. That's and another thing, I bought a grounding pad. You can measure the voltage.
Yes.
It's you know what I mean? Like everything is measurable. That's why it was important for me to figure out a way to but I suppose what I can do is I can check before and afters of HRV. And what you,
Definitely. This is the
mhm,
easiest way, the
yeah,
easiest. It's a simple technology.
hmm,
It's not complex, and you can measure it very accurately. Yes.
yeah, yeah. That's something I'll definitely do. And you had made a point on one of the podcasts that I'd listened to, where I listened to several, where you said that the traditional glassed structured water only holds it for like 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever it ends up being. It's a short
Yeah, we
term
tested
fix.
most of them. So this is the difference. There are scientists who created some form of coherent or structured water using vortexes, magnets,
Hmm.
crystals, various other forms. And we tested most of them, if not all of them. And they do actually change the state of the water. So it really does change, but the coherence stays anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. Then the
Yeah.
water molecules break and the water goes back into chaos. With Analemma water, this is why it's so special, I would say, because once it enters into coherent state, it never goes back. We tested it now for 7 consecutive years after just one treatment. The water never goes back to chaos. It takes 1 full year for us to create what we call the mother water. It involves precious metals, it involves geometry, it involves the lightning, if you can imagine. And once it passes the fifth stage, it never goes back. It just never goes back. We did many things to it. We radiated, we did all kinds of stuff that usually puts water in deep chaos. Water resists, even if it breaks, because when we rated it close range with 5G, water molecules broke. But As soon as you stop with the radiation, it remembers its most dominant frequency. It remembers its water has memory. So when it
Mhm.
picks up the most dominant state, it just remembers it. It comes back to it. That's why it's so incredible. We did, as I mentioned, many experiments on it, whatever usually pushes the water to chaos, but the water resists. And it's interesting that that characteristic, so to speak, actually gets passed on living things. We did, for instance, recently study that's going to be published in Tier 1 scientific magazine very soon on the effects on plants. So plants really become resilient when we actually measured various forms of stress. They thrive even if you create a powerful stressor to it. What we did, we took plants, watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and we created a short-term drought. And then we saw how the plants actually recover. And we used the latest fluorescence-based technology that can capture what happens inside the plant on a molecular level, and we measured various markers. And really, when you water the plant with Analemma water, it becomes extraordinarily resilient. And it's not even that. What we did with our tomatoes, it's when you do it for generations. What we did, we grew tomato, we took out the seeds and replanted for 3 generations. After 3 generations, you almost don't need to use pesticides. It
Crazy.
becomes so resilient to any form of stress and any form of invader that you don't almost need, I mean, a little bit because the bug comes or whatever, but when you compare it to the regular tomato, it's a in a universe of its own.
There's so much I want to ask you. My brain is going completely crazy right now. But just to
Please.
go, if we go back,
Hmm.
I heard I lived in Switzerland for a long time, and in
Hmm.
Switzerland they're very efficient and they're very smart. They're a very smart population, right? But I also
Mm.
some, let's say, crazy people, especially early on, were also bringing these ideas of water to me,
Mm.
right? But how they explained it to me was that normal water is dead. It's dead water, and you're mentioning that like after a while, other manufacturers of structured water, the water then becomes chaotic. But isn't chaotic water the natural state?
I would say this is a very cool question, and thank you for that question. We believe that water existed in coherent state, and usually, when you have the stream of water, when you have the river, you have this left and right vortexes which keep the water in coherent state.
Hmm.
But we would say due to EMFs, toxicity of the world that we live in, that was actually deeply disturbed. And that's why we believe that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project, because it was necessary to bring water back into the state it's supposed to be. And this is the way to do it. This was one of the ways to do it, anyhow. So we don't feel that we invented it. We actually feel that we were inspired to do it. And we feel that we are stewards of this water, not that we own it
Yeah.
or any way of form. Because when you see the results that we saw, you kind of just want to do it justice and kind of offer it to as much people, animals. We had crazy results with animals as well and with plants. So we just kind of want to offer it. There is also one study that I want to talk to you about on soil, which truly kind of shown the power of it. But I don't want to divert you had questions, please.
Yeah, no, listen, I really enjoy talking to you because it's
Hmm.
wonderful to see someone so passionate about something especially that I have really no idea about. So the the next point was that you said that, how your Analemma water goes through 5 processes, right?
Yes.
I also heard in another podcast that this coherent water can be found in nature, but it's very, very remote. Now,
Yes.
again, in Switzerland, there are certain hotspots throughout the country where people go there to be healed by the natural water. So there's one in close to a place called Stoss, which is famous for people with cancer. There's other ones that are more, or look at Lourdes, somewhere like Lourdes, where a lot of people uh,
Mm.
go to experience the water and the heat, the miracle power of water, right? Um, why did, how did you come up with these five processes? And who's, not to critique, but then couldn't we try to start adding more processes to it? How do you know that this is now the mother water and it's sort of complete in this stage? Couldn't we keep adding new processes to it to see if it develops even
We
more?
just realized in our early research that the highest biophoton emissions that we saw was with this.
Right.
And then when we realized this is it, then okay, there is no, it's not that's something that produces anything higher. And not only that, as I mentioned, we did all kinds of things to it, radiated it, and we wanted to see whether it will break, and it didn't.
Well,
And we saw that after just one treatment, it just never goes out of the state of coherence. That's why we said, okay, this is it. And as I already mentioned, this is inspired. We really feel that we didn't come up with it. It just kind of we became vessels of it. Let's call it that way. I know it's a spiritual term. I don't know if kind of people believe in this or not, but I truly believe that we are part of the planet Earth. We are part of the nature. We like to think of ourselves that we're separate. Nothing could be further from the truth. Anything that's separate from the nature dies.
mm,
The only way you're actually living, and not only living, but living your fullest life, is when you're deeply connected to the energy of life itself.
mm.
So we are
Okay.
part of life, and water is deeply connected to life. I always like to say, like, in my eye, the greatest scientist of all time, Nikola Tesla, he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Mhm.
And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. It's therefore at the very heart of life.
Mhm. Yes, I I enjoy that. The when you if we look at like Analemma water, it's
Mhm.
holding its coherence for 7 years. And I heard on another podcast that where you find this coherent water in nature, it's found in the well, but as soon as you touch it or you move it, it starts to
Yeah, you
lose its
take it out because we wanted to take it out and we wanted to bring it to lab, and it didn't work.
right. So then say like for example, if you were to put radiation into this water, whether it's in its natural state without touching it, would it have then the same effects? My bigger question to this is, like me and Mike, we're all about performance, and there's certain things you can do, but you can also overkill stuff, right? Like you can do
Of
too
course.
much of
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing. So if the natural state of water will become chaotic, if you move it after a short period of time, but analemma water is not changing after 6 years, no matter what you put into it, is that not a contra to the natural state of it? Because if you are moving it or
No, I
changing it,
don't believe that chaos is a natural state. Because of the state of the world and all the frequencies that we've put into place with all the toxins and everything, water exists in chaotic state. If we would be having a natural world without all of these elements, I believe that water everywhere would be coherent.
right?
So, because we created this, whatever this is, that's why water is in the chaos. And that's why we believe that it needed this technology was necessary to bring harmony back into chaos. But if we would, I truly believe that if all the EMFs and toxicity and there are a lot of things, glyphosate, everything that kind of kills life, if all of this would be taken away, I believe that planet Earth would create extraordinary coherent water everywhere.
Yeah, like it's its natural state.
It's its
So that
natural state. Yeah.
so that comes into another question that I had then, which
Mhm.
was, have you done any like measurements with different countries and based on the water quality from different countries? So say, for example, if you went to somewhere very remote in, let's say, in Africa, let's say, compared to somewhere that's more built up, let's say, and with more pollutants around, let's say somewhere like Delhi in India, would you be able to see, like if you take spring water from Delhi, let's say, and you take spring water then from Africa, would you be able to see immediately
Yes,
the spring
we
water
would.
itself
Yeah,
is
yeah.
effective.
We would because we have the technology necessary to do so. But we didn't even want to go there because our whole thing, when we realized the problem, when we realized that the problem is prevalent everywhere on the planet, we wanted to find a solution for it, which we did. And we kind of wanted, and we focused all of our research on proving that something extraordinary happens here. Your questions are more than valid. If we would be if we would have like 150 scientists in our team, not 50, and we would have 100 million more in research, we would definitely kind of go there. But we have a limited budget and we have limited staff. So we're
Yeah.
just picking, quote unquote, our battles, or kind of not battles, but we're picking where we want to focus. And since this water is so life affirming, we wanted to kind of see, okay, what can we test now? What can we test now that will prove that life will enhance once we put it there? And it's a good moment maybe to jump in the study that I wanted to mention, which really proves the whole life enhancing thing, because this whole technology is created in the Netherlands by Dr. Eric Larker. He's the inventor of it, my dear, dear friend. Since Netherlands is the land of large agriculture companies, they're
Mhm.
using the crap out of glyphosate there in like crazy amounts. So you have a lot of dead soil there that these agri companies like cannot use it because they've used so much all of these toxins that it's just completely barren and they cannot revive it no matter how much, again, chemicals they put on. So we wanted to see what's going to happen if we would use Analemma water on it. So we used one part of this dead soil and watered with regular water, and one chunk we watered with Analemma water. And we monitored what happened in the soil on a molecular level. So the part that was watered with regular water, it was dead. After 2 months, we did another test, and basically there was zero change. It was still dead. Just nothing really happened there. But after 2 months of watering this dead soil with Analemma water, what we saw was huge explosion in biodiversity of the microbiome of the soil. So we started seeing these colonies of bacteria happening in the soil. Total nitrogen in soil increased dramatically. Nitrogen cycle got increased dramatically to the
Yeah.
point that this dead piece of soil became alive again within only 2 months, and you can grow food on it. But you know what's interesting? I love this. We started seeing that those bacteria, this life that started to emerge in the soil, these bacteria started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs. So can you imagine the more elegant and more beautiful and more natural way to solve the greenhouse gases issue of the world? You just water everything with it. The microbiome of the soil changes. Bacteria, this life, what we breathe out, plants breathe in, soil breathe in, and they're breathing out oxygen, which we need. And everything is a perfect cycle of life. That's why I'm saying that it's so life enhancing. It revived a completely destroyed dead piece of soil within only 2 months. So I love this study. It was really kind of phenomenal to see what can happen with something that is dead. There was zero anything there. And this actually inspired our whole double-blind placebo-controlled microbiome study where we wanted to see what actually happens to human microbiome when people drink this water. Because I'm a huge, maybe we can jump there, or I don't know. I don't want to talk too much. Please
Real,
ask
real,
questions.
real quick. What do you contribute to the increase in nitrogen for too? Like I saw that as well.
Well, again, we can only hypothesize, but what I would always say that it's life enhancing. Whatever is necessary for life to emerge, it actually starts showing up because these bacteria weren't there. These bacteria weren't all around. They weren't anywhere there. But bacteria are necessary for life to grow. And they started to explode when you watered the soil with NLM water. And of course, if you want to grow food on it, you need to have nitrogen inside, and the whole nitrogen cycle needs to be on a certain level so that you can even start to grow food on it. And that exactly happened.
So it's like the water carries like a DNA, right? Like it carries a history, like you said. It has a memory,
Has
water.
memory. Exactly.
So if only if you feel comfortable, because I'd certainly also want to learn more about the microbiome in the stomach, but
Hmm.
just to try to really understand Analemma water itself, would you feel
Hmm.
comfortable to explain, first of all, the source of water that you use, and then the five different processes, and then like how you even,
This is the part where we
or is
really
that
can't. Yeah,
okay? Okay.
we kind of decided not to go there because we didn't want to patent the technology. Because when you patent, you have to actually explain, but it's very difficult. We don't see that anybody will kind of figure it out. So we decided just we want to protect it. As I mentioned, we're stewards of the water, and I just like to share the whole mission of our company. We want to make all the bodies of water on this planet coherent again. We actually have created this eco-friendly technology. We want to bring it to the governmental level so that we can install our equipment at the wells of the biggest rivers, because then all the life down the stream would thrive.
Mhm.
Microbiome of the soil, all life, animal and plant life is just going to be enhanced. And can you imagine all of this water would end up in oceans and just going to continue to end up in oceans? Then oceans would enter into the state of coherence. And we're talking about entirely different electromagnetic state of an entire planet. This is very life affirming. And I truly believe everything is vibrational. When you introduce something so electromagnetically powerful and life enhancing on a larger scale, as I mentioned, we are part of this planet. We are going to start to vibrate in a different way. And when we do, everything would change. And this is kind of what we're all about. It would be super cool if we could actually use our equipment in the municipal water supply, so that because this water is so resilient that even if it passes through the whole rectangular, and what the whole piping system is really bad for water, because water wants to flow in a natural way. So this is an unnatural way of how we are bringing water to our houses. But this water is so resilient that even if it's, I don't know how many miles of pipes between the municipal water supply and your house, when you open the faucet, you are going to get coherent water.
So is it so potent that like a teardrop in a liter or 100 liters that would have the effects? Like how much, like what's the,
We tested it actually. For instance, if you take out let's say 1 cup of water, and you take the analemma and you swirl for 20 seconds, then you're 100% sure that all the water in your cup is actually coherent. But we didn't do the science in terms of like if you take 1 drop and what kind of effect would it had. But we just wanted to be beyond 100% sure that, in 20 seconds of swirling through a cup, you are going to get the glass of mother water,
right?
and then you drink it and you have the effect.
So this is where I'm a little confused.
Hmm.
You said it took you over a year to make the mother water.
Hmm.
How long does this water, like if you do the wand, how long does this water stay coherent?
We tested it for 7 consecutive years now. So after just one treatment, the water never went back to chaos.
And how did you test it?
There are various ways we do that. One, again, is biophotons. So this is a very kind of accurate way. So it either exude, the plants either exude this certain percentage of light or they don't. We compared it to like you water the plants with regular water and you have certain output. And when you water with an Analemma water, you are going to have a very noticeable difference. And this is the way you know that the water works. There are other ways, as I already mentioned, but let's say that this one is one that we rely on. We have other methods which are much faster. It's also very, very kind of interesting phenomenon, which early on we realized that water has a electric potential anywhere between 100 and 300 millivolts. But when you swirl the analemma through, that potential actually rises by 300%.
So
Okay.
maybe, sorry, Mike, go.
So you can measure voltage of the water.
Well, you require it's not happening so much. That's why I'm not even talking about it too much because you need a very special equipment to actually measure that. It's not that direct in terms of you take a voltmeter and you measure it. But it needs a bit more special equipment. That's why I'm not even I share this information with you guys now.
Gotcha.
But it requires a bit more sophisticated equipment that you cannot really kind of go and buy in Home Depot.
Hmm. So the mother water that you have right now, is it just like
Mhm.
sitting in a vat and you just like let it chill in this container and then when we need to do a test, like, hey, we're on
No,
our
no, no.
190th month sort of thing.
No. This is what we do actually. So maybe I can also explain this first application that we came up with, which is like it has a crystal vial, and we filled the crystal vial with mother water, and it has holder on top. And then you have like the cap so that you're kind of keeping it protected. So the crystal actually has twofold purpose. Of course, one is to create the barrier between the mother water inside and the rest of the water that you're swirling through. But more importantly, it serves as a superconductor. So crystal allows the frequency of mother water to pass through without any loss. So when you swirl the analemma through the water, any H2O molecule, chaotic H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, it picks up the frequency of mother water and starts to mimic its exact structure in a very fast manner. That's why I'm saying in 20 seconds of swirling, you in effect actually get a glass of mother water.
And that water will never change.
It the only thing, again, if we're keeping to the hardcore science, we have now tested it for 7 consecutive years, and it never went out of the state of coherence. We even which is kind of, I don't even mention it, so let's keep it that way. After 7 years, it's still in the very same state. Yes.
So then if you drink a glass of the Analemma water, that would, how would that not mean then, well, I guess actually because nothing stays in the body full time. I would just answered my own question, I guess, because I was thinking then you could just drink one cup and then it's a one and done.
No. I mean, like the way I see it, it's, what I love about NLMA, purely from the biohacking point of view, it's it's the simplest form of kind of enhancing the quality of your health. You need to drink water anyhow. Anybody who is really into health and wellness, people start to kind of take the 20, 30 pills a day. You kind of feel like you're sick, dude, even though you're healthy and you're trying to optimize your health. But with this, it's simple thing. You need to drink it anyhow, and you're powerfully enhancing the state of your mitochondria. You're improving the state of your microbiome. You're improving the state of your brain waves. Like NAD is the cellular fountain of youth. It extends not only your health, your lifespan, it extends your health span. And we proved by just drinking this water, your NAD levels go up significantly. So it's kind of a simple thing. You need to drink water anyhow. And in this way, you're really optimizing your health in a pretty powerful way.
So I have a couple of follow-ups. What's difficult for me too is
Mm.
I have my master's in Chinese medicine in acupuncture. Um,
Cool. I love that. Actually, Dr. Eric Larker, he's also one part of his kind of training is acupuncture. So you would hit it off with him.
so maybe not. I I had I had difficulty. I remember asking some of my professors, and I said, are there issues with some of the points in acupuncture? Can it cause disharmony? And they said no. I said, so that's like saying, like, then how can you assume that it causes the harmony, right? There's certain things where, in my mind, like you can absolutely have too much of something, right? Like the even water, hyponatremia. You know what I mean? Like you could, or you could
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah,
or you could
yeah,
just
yeah.
flat out drown. You know, like so,
Yeah, of course, of course, of
so,
course.
so how, in my mind, like going through this, because my first thought process is cool. I'll just get a water filter for my entire house, and that goes out to my outdoors. That's not a big deal. I'll get the Analemma, the 1999 filter system, whatever the hell it was, and now my kids bathe in it. But what is going on with the water? What is the mechanism of this? Is there something being put into it? Is it brushing past, let's say, even something like lead, right? You got lead pipes, it's going in your kids' water, and now your kids are bathing in it. How can, I don't want to say how can we be sure that this change is purely adaptogenic in the sense of like in Chinese medicine, there are certain herbs that are considered adaptogens, right? Where if you have high blood pressure, you take this, it goes down. If you have low blood pressure, you take the same thing, it goes up. Or your heart rate's too high, your heart rate's too low, your body temperature's too hot, your body temperature's too cold. You take this one thing, it's good. There's always you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul in one way or another. In my eyes, right? How how can we be sure, or how do we know that this is purely just I don't know, like goodness? You know what I mean? Like
No, I love your question, just so you know. I love your question, and I can give you my perspective on it. And let's use microbiome because, I'm super geeky about microbiome because, we like to think of ourselves as we are the single species. Like nothing could be further from the truth. We're living in symbiosis with these trillions of microorganisms, and we're thinking, oh, I'm a human being. There are up to 300 times more microbial genes in human body than human genes. And this equilibrium is extraordinarily important. And I love exactly what you mentioned. People like to think that certain things aren't supposed to be in our body. Everything that is in our body is supposed to be there, but it's just a matter of how much.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with bacteria. You have this equilibrium of good and bad bacteria. Bad bacteria are supposed to be there. If you would kill all the bad bacteria, it's not going to work. But it's just a matter uh, of the levels, so to speak. And this is what we exactly saw with this water. In our first double-blind placebo-controlled study, when we did a study on microbiome, we measured dysbiosis index of the microbiome.
Mhm.
So this biosis index measures the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the different bacteriophile and species and their weighing factor. So we saw 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index. This was our pilot study. What we did in this study as well, and in the study following, because we did the entire DNA sequencing of the microbiome, and actually we did crossover study because we didn't, it's very hard to compare one microbiome to the other one. So we designed the study so that for a certain period of time, people were drinking regular water without them knowing they're drinking regular water. Then we had a flash out period and they were drinking Analemma water and then they didn't know they were drinking Analemma water. And we measured what actually happened within their microbiome. So single microbiome was the study. And we did on this on, I don't know how many people, 20 or 30, I don't know. So the key element, we again saw the equilibrium, the rise of positive bacteria and the sharp decline of negative ones. So there is equilibrium. So life puts itself back into homeostasis, so to speak. It puts itself into a state of harmony. So it's not that it kills all the bad or whatever, it creates balance. And anytime we did this testing, this is what we saw.
Mhm.
Another thing that I love is our studies on animals. because with animals there is no placebo. Like they don't believe that it works or it doesn't. It either works or it doesn't. And for instance, there is this a pig stable. Since Dr. Clark, who is also a veterinarian, they had huge issues in one pig stable in the Netherlands, and they were spending huge amounts of money on regular veterinarians and medicine because they tried to take out the diseases out of the stable, and it didn't work. There was constant problems, and they couldn't solve it. Dr. Larker gave them Analemma water, and they were feeding the pigs for a month with it. It's interesting that the pigs started to have diarrhea very soon on. After a month, no diseases. All of them went out. So I'm not going to say that this is going to happen when people drink this water or anything like that, but I'm just sharing what we saw. And it's very repeatable, and we saw this with other animals. Whatever you expose this to, there is this harmony that comes back to the body.
I I like that you explained it in the harmony, right? Like that
I
makes
mean,
sense to
this
me.
is just my attempt. I
Yeah,
cannot, if I'm going to go, but with the studies that we did, then I can only say these are the studies that we did. This is what we proven, but this is just my perspective on it. What is the mechanism? What this water, I believe, does in the human body.
yeah. No, no, no. And so one of my questions for Max Vreco was we were talking about the one study where they did the I love you water and the I hate you water,
I
and
love it, Dr. Masaru Emoto. Yeah.
they did it with food too. They did it with rice, right?
Yes.
And you say I hate you to the rice, and I love you to the rice, and the I love you rice lasted longer than the I hate you rice, grew way more bacteria and started molding. And I said, well, who's to say the mold is the bad guy, right? Like I don't know. Like maybe the mold is the good guy, and we're the one holding them back. So why is the I hate you frequency a bad frequency? Why isn't that the good frequency?
I have again perspective on it. I'm familiar with the study and I love it. And actually, thousands of people on internet repeated it. But I can tell you one thing: that beautiful fermented smell of rice in the I love you rice, you could actually eat that rice and nothing bad would happen to your stomach. But if you would eat the moldy one, it would actually hurt your body and you would feel it.
Mhm.
So I would say there are things which are life affirming and it really helps you be more alive, or it actually makes you feel sick.
Yeah.
So it's a simple way to kind of really gauge what is pro-life, so to speak. It kind of makes you feel more alive. It makes you feel more vibrant. It makes you like, now I can run, I feel powerful and strong, or like I feel bad, I can't really do
Mhm.
it. So this is the energetic aspect of everything, and I love that it's visible. That experiment is something I kind of on many podcasts I invite people to do that because they will see themselves. It's very visual. You cannot fake it. And
Mhm.
it's interesting, again, I have to mention this my experience inspired the study that we did. I had this basil plant in my summer house, and I was watering it with Analemma water, like I water all my plants, and I had to leave for a week. And you can imagine what happens to a feeble basil plant on high heat without water. I
Mhm.
invite people to do that. It will shrivel and blacken down in 2 days. I came back after a week, and it was like nothing touched it. 1 week without water on high heat, and the plant still stood strong. Again, life enhancing.
Mhm.
And these are the little things that I also invite people to do. Take two basil plants, water one with regular water, water one with Analemma water for 3 weeks, and then cut their water supply and increase the heat. And you will see how they're going to behave. This is very visual.
Mhm.
So, and people love these kind of small experiments to see. And we received thousands of letters for people that they did their own plant studies. plant is a kind of a life form that you can really play with.
Hmm.
What I don't know how much time we have with you longer because we've been on an
Yeah,
hour.
I'm kind of, I have maybe 10 more minutes. I was under impression that it will be within hour and 10 minutes.
Cool, cool, cool.
Oh, that's
Oh,
absolutely no problem. So then maybe then if you wouldn't mind, just give
mhm.
me like the elevator pitch. Like, how did you even get into this?
This is really also interesting story. So anyhow, I was always super passionate about health and wellness. And I actually owned and ran an advertising agency for many years back in the day, and I really loved that. But I was always super passionate about health and wellness. I always knew that our bodies were created perfect. Our bodies are really created in a way that they can heal anything. And I was always super passionate about finding ways to in assisting that natural, powerful process in a kind of powerful way. This led me to I opened a natural pharmaceutical company, which I ran for years, and it was super gratifying process. You know, when you offer something that truly, truly helps people. You know, we have sick people and they really come back to health. It was really an amazing thing for me, and I loved doing that for years. After a while, I sold the entire business to Walgreens, and then it was kind of since I'm a young dude, I kind of want to throw myself into again something which is, and I really wanted something which is for the highest good of all, something that helps people, that helps animals, that helps plants, that helps environment. And I knew that it was a tall order, but how universe in its amazing grace and wisdom, it connected me in a very relatively short period of time with Dr. Clarker. And since I came from the pharmaceutical world, I did all the, I came, brought with me, the knowledge in clinical trials, how to do it accurately, how to do it in a highly scientific way, how to do it in a way that, it's bulletproof. And this is what I brought in. And that's why we did all of these studies and I helped design them and we did all, and, that's why I'm saying we're the stewards of this water. When you witness all of these beautiful things happening, at least for me, I just want to do it justice. So I'm dedicated my time to kind of really tell the story so that people can see. And I'm telling you, we barely scratched the surface with the beauty of this project. We're going all over the place with studies. We're doing agriculture studies. We're doing animal studies. We're doing human studies. There are so many. Who knows, in the next month where we will end up with it. And it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find your product?
Yeah, they can go to coherent-water.com. And not to kind of, it's usually Analemma-water, but I don't want people to spell it. So it's very easy, coherent-water.com. If they want to follow our work, if they want to follow our science, because we're doing a lot of work constantly, they can jump on a newsletter and they can follow our work. And of course, anybody can actually, we haven't even mentioned, we actually did a garden Analemma as well as an application because with this water, if you are growing your own food, you are going to create the most nutrient dense, beautiful, light radiating fruit and veggies for yourself. And if you eat that, you are going to see the difference in your health, in your vibrancy. And of course, you can drink the water and bathe in it. Also, I like to say, if you cannot, we actually, the wand, we created very affordable to everybody. We knew that we could charge more, but we want to make this technology really accessible and available so that any basically family can purchase it. If you take care of it, if it drops, it will break. But if you take care of it, if you treat it like a jewel, it will create coherent water for you for life. So you don't have to buy another one. With just this one, it can give you coherent water for life. What I wanted to say is, if you can't afford the whole house system, and you want to take baths in Analemma water, get the benefit. What I say is just take the Analemma wand, if you have it, and put it underneath the flowing water. It will take some time before the bathtub fills, but you will get the same thing as if you own the whole house in Lemma. So you just put it there and until the bathtub fills, and you're sure you're having a coherent, you can take a bath in coherent water and have the same benefit. But of course, if you can afford whole house in Analemma, then you just open the faucet and go in another room and wait for it to rise. But this is just a way that you can have exactly the same benefit.
Wonderful. And for the people then that are, are going to get the wand or the house system, what is the number one experiment, or maybe you have really quickly like two or three experiments that people should run for themselves to see the power? You mentioned
Well,
the plant. Is there what
a
other what else?
basil plant is awesome, and also you can see with people are having jungles in their houses with this water. So and especially we get really thousands of letters where people kind of couldn't make the plant alive. When you have a plant, it just whatever you put it, however you water it, it just kind of withers down. We have so many examples when people started to water that kind of plant that was really kind of struggling with an lemon water and just pops back to life. So these are the little experiments everybody can do. One other thing that I always kind of invite people, because I would say 95% of people realize this very fast, is to do a taste test. And they can actually even do a blind taste test. You will immediately see it's the same water, you just swirl with it and it tastes different. How? This is kind of an interesting phenomenon. And also we did this with wine, if you can imagine, we did this with top sommeliers. You can take a crappy wine and use the wand in it and it start to taste like an expensive wine. So it's really kind of crazy that way. But anyhow, yeah, basil plant is something anybody can do to really dramatically see the difference.
Cool. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate you,
Oh,
brother.
thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure of mine. I feel like it's always a thrill for me even though I've did like I don't know how many of these podcasts, over 100, and it's every single time awesome because when you're sharing something like this, it's really a huge pleasure of mine. And thank you for inviting me and allowing me and giving me the opportunity to share this information with the world. Thank you.